But what makes my course very interesting is that it all starts from the science. So if we talk about motivation or we talk about something, my coaching really starts from the science and we build up. There's many great things and things, there's various different aspects that work for different people.
Yep.
For me, I find that when you understand the science and you go under that, there's a bit of that intrinsic motivation where you understand it better. At least that's what resonated with me. So I figured if it resonates with me, it resonates with other people.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our ongoing goal is to help our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. I'm totally thrilled to have you join us on this episode, and I appreciate you for taking time out of your day to be here. Now, personal growth and peak performance are the topic of conversations on this edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. And when you stop and think about it, they're very, very much akin to climbing a steep mountain. You know, just like reaching the summit requires determination and perseverance, achieving your peak performance and peak potential involves continuous growth and pushing yourself beyond your limits. Now, Adam Levine is an agile coach and high performance expert who has dedicated his career to helping individuals unleash their full potential. With a background in neuroscience and a passion for self-improvement, Adam brings a unique perspective to the world of coaching. His expertise in agile coaching, which is a form of coaching that helps teams and individuals adopt that agile practices. And Adam will definitely get into that more and explain it in greater detail. But he's got a deep understanding of peak potential and performance concepts that make him the perfect guest to discuss the keys to living an audacious life and unlocking your true potential. Adam really was a great guest, and I loved his straightforward approach, and I think you'll enjoy him as well. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Adam Levine. Enjoy. Hey, Adam, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you making the time like this, man.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's cool to hang out like this. I know we were doing that scheduling game for a little while thing, but you know, all that doesn't matter no more because we're here now, and
We're here. Absolutely. We're
that's
in the
all that
present.
matters.
So that's all that matters. 1000%.
So you know, here on this podcast, one of the sort of the ongoing themes is encourage individuals to sort of live that best audacious life that they talk about, and as a high performance coach, that would be very much in line with what you encourage individuals to do and go after the life that they're meant to, uncover their potential and chase it with everything imaginable. So maybe as a starting point, because again, the synergies are there for me. I mean, you and I see it, the connection clearly. So maybe as a starting point, we can get you to just tell our audience to know about sort of who you are, the work you do, and then because you're also an agile coach, I'd love for you to give our audience a clear understanding of the difference between agile coaching and the high performance one as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I would say that my journey started, I'd say 2 or 3 years ago. And, being in corporate America, had my first big gig. I was working at S&P Global within risk management, worked on some really great projects there. And for me, I've always been within the audit risk management space within financial services, but
Okay.
I was always at small organizations. As soon as I hit S&P, that's when it was like, okay, I'm a small fish in a big pond. What do
You
I do?
arrived. You
And
arrived.
exactly. And then COVID hit, and
Right.
then it was this complete game changer because it went from working in an office 5 days a week to now working virtually. So there was just a lot of change. And I think maybe I was just going through like my own changes. And I just knew that like I wanted to do something. I wanted to level up my game in some sort of way. So 2.5 years ago, I started just looking online and researching ways that I could improve. And then I stumbled upon someone who I think is phenomenal. His name is Stephen Kotler. And I took his first training course, which is called Zero to Dangerous. And it really changed my life. It really did. He's huge. If you Google him, he's an award-winning New York Times bestselling author. And what really the course and what his company, it's called the Flow Research Collective, is really understanding how to get into the zone and understanding neuroscience and how that essentially works.
Okay.
So then after that, didn't stop there. I was like, wow, this is something that's really cool. And I had an intrinsic thing to it. So I decided to take the next course, which is to get my coaching certification. And after that, it was like, wow, like, what do I do now? And originally, like, I didn't know what I wanted to do with coaching. I didn't know what to do with it. And my whole life 2 years ago, I always thought, which I still am, was just working corporate America. Never in a
Right.
million years would I ever think to be an entrepreneur. And why would I even think about it? Because it's too hard. It's difficult. You can't make it and all
You don't
that
know what
stuff.
it is. You never done it before. Who the heck do you think you
Exactly.
are? The imposter syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. But then after taking the coaching, I felt like all those barriers kind of
Right.
went away. Fast forward a bit more. I officially launched my company, my coaching business 3 months ago,
Okay.
which was
Congrats.
really a year and a half in the making. It's called Inner X Lab. Been really good. Been featured in the media in some really good stuff. I'll share with you the
Congrats.
link. My
Yeah.
website's going to be finalized, so unfortunately I don't have it yet. But my design team hopefully should be done very soon. And then really to kind of fast forward, I think where I'm at right now is that I just want to be of service to people. I want to help people. And I think originally too, I think this is important for me to preface again, why did I want to become a coach? So I could self-coach myself. So I think that was a big part of it, was so I can self-coach myself in many different areas and facets of my life.
Right.
And I think also it's important for me to note that I've always been a huge fan of self-improvement. Like I just eat it up. So like people watch TV, people read a book, which I like to do. I like self-improvement anywhere I can get a shot. But what makes my course very interesting is that it all starts from the science. So if we talk about motivation or we talk about something, my coaching really starts from the science and we build up. There's many great things and there's various different aspects that work for different people.
Yep.
For me, I find that when you understand the science and you go under that, there's a bit of that intrinsic motivation where you understand it better. At least that's what resonated with me. So I figured if it resonates with me, it resonates with other people.
So essentially the science of motivation.
That is correct. And motivation's one aspect of it, but I'd say like anything realm to the coaching really starts with it's going under the science and really building up from there, depending upon what it may be.
Sure.
But I do want to answer your second question about agility.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing too. So I was a certified Scrum Master and an Agile coach. So I actually did practice Agile. So I'd say a difference. So high performance coaching is I'm not saying it's a legalese term, but really performance coaching in the realm of what they call peak performance are really people that are, let's say, leaders that are already Fortune 500 companies, and it could be anyone. They're already, let's say out of college, out of grad school, they're already what I call living at their 7 to 10, but there's something missing, right? Making six figures nowadays, and again, wherever you're at, nowadays is not as much as it was 20 years ago. So you could be in that situation where you're mid-level management. You could be working for, I don't know, BlackRock or Blackstone, and you could be working as a hedge fund manager, but you're still not living that, or you're still a product of that.
Right.
That's performance coaching. It's to get that additional drive to get you to the next level, right? Because everyone's there, right? You work at a big company, assuming like you get hired at Goldman Sachs, everyone's really good. But then how can you really get the edge of your competition and get that, what I call the X factor?
Okay.
That's where I come in. That's performance coaching. Agile coaching in of itself is essentially, it used to be project management, but agility in of itself is a tool that was used in IT development, but it's really a methodology in order to build something. It was generally used, it's mostly used in technology, but the whole concept of agility is that if we haven't, I'm just making a very basic example. We're building a tower. The whole concept is that we visualize the tower, but we break it up in each chunk. So for instance, if you and I are working together, the first week or two, like we generally work in what they call a sprint. So 2 weeks is like, okay, let's build layer one. Once that's done, we put it there. Let's go to the second sprint. Let's do that. So it's the
Yeah.
whole concept of agility is really breaking things up into bite-sized chunks.
And the advantage of that, it just makes it look manageable. Like, I mean,
It,
that expression, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? That whole
it,
idea of, right, like, okay, I've got this big task, and if I look at that mountain in its totality,
it
that's
is.
a huge mountain to climb.
It is. And just to add to it, and I just, this is something where at least I feel like I could practice this. And this is important for me to tell your viewers. I don't knock anyone say it, but like it's one thing to talk and it's one thing to walk the walk. But I say
Sure.
that a lot of times people in general unconsciously use the term, you got to be agile, you got to be nimble. What does that mean? Right. And that was something even to this day that I really opine on. I think about what is agile. And don't get me wrong, like, so part of that is always iterating, always
Yeah.
updating. So
Mhm.
a little bit of about my coaching is part of that. That's essentially what my coaching is combining the neuroscience and flow, which is really how to access flow states, being in the zone. Because a lot of times you could be living your audacious life, but you're doing it unconsciously. Once you start understanding the
Yeah.
triggers, you're doing it automatically. So
Consciously. Yeah.
what I'm in the process of doing, I do have a coaching curriculum, but one of the things I'm trying to toy with now is finding a way to really incorporate, like if you Google agile, it's an entire manifesto,
Mhm.
but that's essentially, there's nothing out there in the market, but really what I've been slowly doing is actually building the hybrid between actual agile methodology and neuroscience. From what I know, there's nothing out there. More to come, but like, right now my coaching is a 1:1. I could do organizations.
Sure.
One of the things that I am kind of toying with over the next year or two is I do want to build out a coaching certification. So like and again, I'm just saying this, I'm a very humble person, but I can use the term like I know it, right? So what if I say you got to be agile, I hear leaders say it all the time
Sure.
in organizations. And I'm like, do you really? I mean, yes, I could ask you what agile means. We have an idea,
Mhm.
but I mean, really understand it. And once you start understanding it in different perspectives, that's when it could be a major game changer.
Well, I've always, anytime that I've heard those terms, what we got to do, we got to be agile, got to be nimble, is generally referring to, like, being flexible, being ready, being, able to adapt quickly to the responsive environment because there's lots of changes. That's
Absolutely.
that's generally how I've anticipated and understood it to be.
You're
Uh,
right.
but, but within the agile sort of coaching framework, that's not it at all.
It's right. I mean, I would say it's an aspect of it, but not at all. Not at all. Someone who's logged in enough flight time, there's so much more to it.
Yeah.
And that's why but the reason that and I say this, and the reason that was really piqued my curiosity is that at a very unconscious level, we use the term. So
Yeah.
like one of the things that I have, like I'm a scientist of life, right? I try to, like you say, the meaning of life, the holy grail, but those are like, that's like one of the things that's my own mission to decode, which is really like, why are people saying that? And I think that's what's really given my own quote unquote curiosity, which we'll talk about in a few, leveraging my own biology to really kind of elevate to
Mhm.
understand what does agile mean. So I agree with you. It's a lot more to it, but there's a lot of great things too. So a
Sure.
lot of
Sure.
people just do it, but there's a reason we use it. And there's a reason agile is called agile. But what I'm saying is too, that if you really understand what it is, it's an amazing methodology. Then having that with my coaching is great. I will tell you though, the agile industry, if you are an agile coach, absolutely, to me, that industry is lacking because the one thing it doesn't include is what I do, which is the neuroscience of it. It's the self-growth, it's a personal growth. So that's the other problem, is that you have a lot of companies spending millions of dollars um, on agile methodology. I mean, there's
Yeah.
tons of stuff. And that's the reason why I want to create something similar in offset to that, where essentially I want to call it, it's not patented, but it's fine. But the concept that I don't like the term agile, but the concept that I want to coin is called neuroagility. There's only one person in South Africa technically who has the name, but that to me is really someone who's really living to their best, because you have people that agile is for the team, but if you can't chip in your own weight and you're not understanding it yourself and the team, then it's not.
Right.
It's rules, but that's really the extent of it. So that's why in my terminology, in my world, when I talk to people,
Mhm.
I break things up. So in my coaching, if you have an opportunity to coach with me, we go through all of that, right? I will literally we'll go through the concepts of what is agile, if that's what you want, and
Sure.
then the other aspect is coaching, and then neuroscience and how to do that, and then we can kind of layer it up.
Gotcha.
And that to me is what it is. So a lot of what I see in Fortune 500 America is either at one end or the other, and that's why I kind of want to, at least from what I'm seeing right now, complete fact, outside of what I'm doing, haven't seen anything at
Gotcha.
this moment to really lever to really build that bridge.
Gotcha. I'll tell you, Adam, as you're talking, and I'm thinking of sort of that neural component, the piece that's really attractive to me is the intentionality about it. And coaching in general, it's very intentional. Obviously, if you go and get a coaching, it's a very intentional process. But the layer that you're adding to it, when you incorporate the science piece of it as well, it really is it's very focused, right? Very intentional, and it's also very clear when anything. I mean, anything that's science based, it's this or that. There's no gray area, right?
Correct. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to start condemning Tony Robbins of the world for anyone
No,
that's there.
right.
Uh, but the term that I use is, and Stephen Kotler actually did it. I consider him a mentor. He's a celebrity, but I in spirit. And one of the things they say is
So he
personality.
like you know him personally? Did you get to know him
No,
personally?
I mean I've seen him. I mean I've taken two of his trainings, so I've seen
Okay,
him, but not one on one. So I've been part of his cohort. So I would say that I took every training with the exception of one because it's $25,000. But
understood.
I've essentially taken everything else other than that. So I think the company themselves know me. But one of the terms that I say is personality doesn't scale, biology does. And what and the reason I say that again is that 15, 20 years ago, I'd say in the latter part of the 80s and 90s, it was very much in life coaching, right? The life coaching space. And that's how it was. It was a whole new movement of what was going on in the last 10 years. Now, what's been happening over the last 4 to 5 years is that there was even a higher scale than that, where there's suddenly you have all these innovators and everyone kind of coming to life. But the reason we can do the science now is because of technology. We could literally put someone under the hood of an MRI machine and really have the science. And that's where it's really coming out. And this concept,
Mhm.
which is really in the realm that I'm in, is called peak performance. And what kind of been going on is that it's always a movement, but I'd say in the last 5 to 6 years, it was a secret science. So you had
Gotcha.
life coaching, but you always had people that knew what to do. So you have like the Cal Newports of the world, that he wrote the book Deep Work. He wrote another great book called Slow Productivity. Elon Musk. No one wanted to ever give up their secrets as far as how they did it. So it
Right.
was a secret cult. And then you have Jim Quick that came out. You had Stephen Kotler. You had all these other people that came out. And that's kind of essentially where we're at now in essentially this peak performance realm. And the type of training that I do that I was trained on, this is exactly the same training that the Navy SEALs do. So
Oh,
when they do that, this is the same thing. The only difference is that, and again, a lot of what my training is, the science of it was evidenced and discovered through action sports. It was trying to understand through the real sharp states, what are people doing at Red Bull on the jumping off of a cliff, and what's going on in their brain. And that's how it started. So really the overall objective, or athletes, right? What is it that's happening when they're able
right.
to shoot three pointers? What is Michael Jordan doing? And most people thought they're gods, they're legends. And it's like, no, I can't do that. They were born like that. That's the point, is that that's the science of it, is there's certain triggers that are met that made Michael Jordan do what he did.
Sure.
That's where the agile comes in, because we break that up. There's around 24 triggers where if you meet them, then you can access flow states on demand. And that is essentially the whole concept of the Navy SEALs. It's really taking action sports and everything and now taking it into the corporate world and taking it to entrepreneurs from a productivity perspective.
Right. 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 So I mean, okay, you use Michael Jordan as an example, but
Mhm.
there's an aspect that was some God-given talent, and then there's some work that and things that he had to do to
Yep.
get himself that peak level, right? And
Oh
so
yeah.
it's in his, I guess in the case of him, it's a good combination, but not
Yeah.
to say that because you don't have these God-given abilities and talents, that you still can't reach that level. So that work piece there always is a solid component of this.
He didn't make, what was it? He didn't make the JV or varsity
Yeah,
team,
that's right.
and he didn't. And then he practiced, but maybe there were certain things that he did, and to your point, exactly. So I think that's essentially what, and again, that's really, I think, the whole concept where really me and a few other coaches who are practicing this, that's where things are going. Companies, Fortune 500s, are slowly picking into it.
Right.
Not too much. It's still a gap where I hear this all the time. I'm part of like LinkedIn, and I still talk to former colleagues that are within, I'm not in the L&D HR world, but I just hear it. And what's happening is they're trying to figure things out because there's still a lack of retention. And it's like, what do we do? And there's still the old school mentality of like, how do we perform? How do we do it? But slowly, companies are understanding that, wait a minute, we really need to understand the science. We need to really get under the hood. But again, it's still right now a very, the practice that I'm in is still a very new emerging concept that a lot of people aren't aware of yet.
Gotcha. The example of the Navy SEALs, I think, is an interesting one as well too, only because unlike most performers, right, the Navy SEALs aren't always in action. They're probably training more than they're actually in combat, if you will.
That
And
is
so,
correct.
but they only have that one opportunity per se, and they've got to be at that peak level. So the part of this is where they've got to stay ready all the time.
Yep, that's exactly it. So a lot of what they're doing with their training is very, so I mean, obviously they're doing things that are much different, but again, that's exactly the point, right? It's very similar to that. And what are the Navy SEALs noted for? Really working under any condition, knowing that
Right.
you are stoic in the middle of a gunfight, in the middle of gunfire. And that is where I try to use that metaphor for the corporate world. And a lot of people are like, no, what do you mean? You're not a soldier, you're not special forces. No, that's exactly the point. If you can take it to that level, right? And that's how my coaching is, to an extent, using terms like Navy SEAL. People are like, yeah, that's badass. That's cool. I want that. But doing everything that we just spoke about in the last 5 minutes,
Yeah.
that's essentially what's taking someone to the next level. That's bringing out their X factor. Every time everyone's like, you got to do it because mom and dad told you, or corporate America, what happens is at some point, you're going to slow back. Now, how do I know this confidently? Well, because I've been in the workforce for over 20 years. I've worked at some very marquee companies.
Right.
So I definitely know a thing or two because I've gone there. So a lot of what I'm saying is because I've failed. I
Gotcha.
failed, I succeeded. I still fail. I failed today. I could fail 5 minutes after we're done talking.
Right.
But resiliency is extremely important.
Yes, absolutely. I'm a big fan of resiliency because therein lies the real lessons, and that's when you learn the most about yourself,
Yep.
right? And that's a big fan of that. I wonder if you sort of could sort of maybe walk kind of through the process. So we're talking about the neuroscience of motivation and using that as a way of kind of getting us to the next level.
Yeah.
What is actually happening? Just to kind of give a picture of what's
Yeah,
happening.
no. So the concept that a lot of people may know of, runners know it as runner's high. Basketball players, or you may know it as in the zone.
Right.
I believe if you are a musician, it's in the, I forgot what the comics call it, in the box. Okay, so there's many different terms where it's like you're
Yep.
sailing, right? The concept that is really called, the emerging part of it is called flow. And essentially what's going on in flow is that time and space essentially are merging together, and essentially flow is a state of optimal performance where you feel your best and you perform your best.
Right.
So
Right.
anytime you're like, yeah, I'm like, I get it, I'm in the zone, it's happening because most likely there are things that you probably don't realize why you're in it. And what happens during flow too, and why it's so important, is that that's when, for anyone, whether people know it or not, learning goes up by 200, 300%. So whether people know it or not, like, wow, I studied and I know it, there was definitely a point where you were in flow. So when you are in flow biologically, right, and this is science, learning goes up 200, 300%. So when you're making that improvement, it's because you're in the state of flow. The science behind that, just to kind of just give a little bit more, is that and don't quote me on this, but some of it essentially is what's going on is that your prefrontal cortex shuts down.
Okay.
The reason I say that is because we have something that's the amygdala, right? That's the front part of our brain anatomy.
Hmm.
Why do we have that? So if I said something to you right now to offend you, you're like, yeah, what, Adam, what'd you just say? You're on my path. That's your radar detector. We have that.
Gotcha.
We can't fight
Yes.
that. And again, that's part of my coaching is we have ancient brains. The same feelings that we had 3,000 years ago. The reason we had it is because our ancient ancestors needed that to fight the tribe. If you left your tribe, you weren't going to walk down the
Right.
street for a
Right.
drink. You're
No.
going to survive. And
Right.
that's what it was. It's your way of survival,
Survival.
right? So that's the amygdala. So what's happening is during flow, and I'm not to really get into the whole, because this is one of my other passions is evolutionary psychology and biology. That's a whole, maybe if you're great, if you want, we could do a whole different podcast on that. But seriously, your amygdala essentially shuts off, which is within your prefrontal cortex,
Yes.
and all of those thoughts go away. And that's what's really happening, because if you're trying to do the thing you want to do, even if you're like, I want to practice the saxophone, you're not really going to get it, right? Versus someone else who, let's say, knows flow and there's certain triggers that are met, that's when mastery will become a lot quicker.
Got you.
So when I say learning comes up 200%, if we were to make a competition, you were to have some coach who did nothing about flow, and I had the same person, they said,
Mhm.
you were the judge and said, all right, you have 6 months. I'm going to do a check-in once a week, and we're going to teach this person who knew nothing about the piano. Done. I'm not a piano player, but I'm saying if I was, odds are the higher probability that my person will probably be able to be a maestro within 2 to 3 months. That's extreme.
Yep,
But what
yep,
I'm
yep.
saying is other people practice, but there are things that are in the way. But when you're actually in flow and you hear these miraculous stories, how is someone able to understand it within then?
Right.
Most likely, when I say personality didn't scale, it could be how they were raised. It could have been their environment,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Why
Yes.
do I say that? I honestly forgot how many kids Elon Musk has, or even Tim Cook from Apple. But geez, if I'm a child of Elon Musk, imagine the type of life you can get
Right.
versus, let's say, someone else who wasn't able to get that life.
That's right.
The only difference, and the commonality that Elon Musk and everyone else has, we're all human beings.
That's
So
it.
at the end of the day, Elon Musk knows it. And a lot of these people, they intrinsically know some of it. They
Yep.
never really gave it up. And in a nutshell, that's essentially what it's called. And just to give you an idea, how do you create flow? So I don't have it completely offhand, but there's certain triggers that are involved that
Yes.
can get you into flow. Like I said, you're in flow. We could be in flow. There's individual flow and there's group flow.
Yeah.
One of the things for flow is risk, right? If you're taking risk, boom, that's something right there. Another flow trigger is considered clear goals.
Mhm.
So here's where we talk about agile. Breaking things up into clear goals makes it easy.
Yes.
There's three, or I know I'm like totally missing it right now, but there's a few, there's a few other ones. I know this is, the challenge skills ratio. That's another one that they call, which is essentially saying, and the godfather of flow is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. And essentially it's a grid, right? And if I'm saying it correctly, there's on the x-axis is level of engagement,
Mhm.
and y is challenge.
Yep.
So if people have anxiety and the challenge exceeds them, people give up. That's why people quit. And that's what you call anxiety, which is like this part. Then you have the bottom part, which is boredom. So
Yep.
if you're over it and you're not, then you're bored. But if you could chart it, so one of my favorites is the challenge skills ratio. So when you build it up, generally what they say for improvement is you want to stretch, but you don't want to snap. So you want to generally go 1% higher than you are.
Yes.
And in the challenge skills ratio right here, so up here is anxiety,
Yep.
right? So if the skill is higher, or if you're going down and the skill is less than where you are, you're going to be in boredom. But if you could understand where you are and navigate it
Mhm.
here, that's what they consider the flow. That's essentially what they consider as being the flow channel in of itself.
Right. Right.
And then once they do that, that's where mastery is. So if you're intentional about some of those things, and again, there's other triggers, but to do that, you could be in flow with one trigger. But when you have 24 triggers and they're all there,
Yes.
you could probably master something in no time.
Right. It's interesting because in all that we're talking about, and you may chuckle as well, but in all that we're talking about, it's just what goes on in our head. It's what we believe. or
Yeah,
believe what we. So if I believe that what I was told my whole life was impossible, and I've made it happen, and I want it to happen, I'll find a way to make it happen, right? But it's
that,
so
that's it. Like I'll
right.
give you an example. Sorry,
Yeah.
mom, dad, if you hear this. I love my parents, but like not in a bad way, but like at least my parents would say, you got to do it. You got to just put your head down to the grindstone and do it.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I don't know. I mean, I was to an extent maybe a rebellious kid. I don't know, but that didn't do anything for me. So like knowing what I know now, I wouldn't change my life in a heartbeat at all. I have an amazing wife. I have 2 kids, great, beautiful boys.
Yep.
But if I had to do it again, I mean, education, right?
Yes.
What I know now, total different mindset. And that's what I mean. I want to just preface that. So that's what I mean by doing that and understanding that having that level would be a huge game changer for me or for anyone.
Yeah, I don't totally would. It's funny because sometimes so I know myself out in person speaking. I'll play tricks on myself to put myself in a state of mind if I'm about to do something. So here's an example. So I love podcasts. I've been doing podcasts for a long time. I'm very comfortable with it. I love engaging in dialogues and
And you're great. I
conversations.
can tell you, you're great. I just want to just say one thing and stop you for one
Yeah.
second. You're phenomenal at it. I
Oh,
would be stuttering and I'd be scared, but you have the voice and you're so
oh,
amazing. But anyways,
thank you.
please continue.
No, thank you, appreciate that.
Yes.
No, it's again something that I enjoy. I've been very comfortable. I think I did my very first podcast in 2008, and now they're like business cards. Everyone's doing them, but I was involved a long time ago. Anytime I'm about to do something that and we all do. Like I question myself. I actually literally say, just act like you're doing a podcast. Like I literally, that's the sort of frame of thinking that I go. And what happens is I get really comfortable. I get really relaxed. The nerves that might be there, I'm not saying they've gone away, but they're not overpowering the situation.
Yep.
It allows me to perform better. And I remember the very first time I did it, I was like, I was like, I got this. This is easy.
Big. And just to add something more for you and your guest, if you really want to rock the world. So I
Yeah.
said flow, right?
Yeah.
This is what we've been talking about.
Yep.
But there's the other side of the coin too, and it's group flow. What do I mean by that? Imagine a concert, everyone's screaming. What's going on? That is group flow. That's what we mean by acting biology. So there's millions of dollars, and I'm going to say this, sorry, Fortune 500 companies of America. And no, I'm not running for president. But what I would say is this: many companies are spending millions of dollars in leadership when the answer is literally what I just said, because you're smiling. It's in your biology. And again, that's what my coaching does. But there's group flow. So when you say you're in a podcast, I know that you and I are in group flow. Why? And again, don't quote me on all the triggers, because there's flow triggers and there's group flow triggers. One of the group flow triggers is shared goals and shared risk. So at the end of the day, you coming on, you want this to be good, right?
Yes.
I'm nervous, but this is your podcast. You get fans, but I want to be good, right? I'm a coach. I want to get my name out there. I mean, I want to be of service to people.
Yep.
But right there, those two are reasons why you get into it. So my point is that, look, there's some great books on servant leadership and stuff, but
Sure.
it goes in different. The thing about these books is that, yes, they're important, but you're not seeing improvement. So people are wasting their time reading a lot of crap that's not helping them, whereas the answer's right in front of them, right? So the difference is that I believe in those leadership books. I want them. Why? Because I'm into leadership. So I love that stuff. I love the things that were done by David Marquette of the world. And David, I love you, but just saying in case you watch it, there's a lot of great things out there, like Simon Sinek and all that stuff.
Yep.
But knowing what I know with the neuroscience, stack that up, then you're a real dangerous mofo. That's what I'm talking about. And that's the whole difference, is that when I'm in a group setting, those are one of the things people don't know this, but anytime I facilitate a meeting, I have an in-flight checklist and I know what all the triggers are.
Okay.
So at the end of it, I'll even debrief and say, did I meet these triggers? Did I not? Even in my own flow, when I said there's 12 triggers out there, 12 to 15, part of what my coaching is what are you compensating more on? Oh, that's the other thing in flow, novelty. Something new. Yeah, something new is exciting. When you do it over time, it's boredom.
Your
brain likes that. So that's the other thing, is what are you leveraging too much of and what are you not? So by me telling someone, okay, these are the triggers, if I'm coaching you and I'm saying, like, what's going on? Like, I'm not getting what's going on. I could say, hey, listen, like, You're using novelty, but you're not using clear goals. Are you organized? Right? So a lot of what's happening is that you're going either in one angle, but not the other. So by understanding these things, that's what it means to say personality doesn't scale, but biology does. Because it does. And people fight after like, what leadership? Everyone's psychology is hard. And then a lot of times they'll say, well, why didn't you get along? They'll say facilitating, but a lot of times they'll say, well, let's say you and I are arguing. Well, life is hard, right? You guys just don't see eye to eye. Like it is what it is, blah, blah, blah. But if you could break it down, take a step back. Yes, the terms that you are aware of is empathizing and all that stuff.
Yep.
How do you empathize? Like, you know, and again, that's not a group flow trigger, but when you start understanding what it is, you actually will get that level of engagement. And that is what I'm saying. Because what happens is there is a neurochemical called oxytocin, right?
Yeah.
If I go into a really shitty neighborhood, I'm going to be scared as crap. The neurochemicals are going to go up.
Yep.
But what I'm saying is, like, I don't know that person, but if I've been in the neighborhood long enough, I can't scare it. So it's the whole thing is this, right? You know how they say self-belief and mindset?
Yeah, absolutely.
If I look in the mirror, our brains have something called a built-in bullshit detector. So I can look in the mirror and you're working at Walmart or Target and say, I'm a millionaire. Well, no, you're not. Like you fucking work at Target. So that's what I mean by like, I'm not saying it, but like this level of affirmation, that doesn't help. That doesn't do that. So a lot of times people
try that by itself, though, that alone.
I'm not exactly. There's mindsets. I'm not saying it's not.
That's right.
I'm just giving an example that your brain knows, your biology knows. So this is just aspects of what I mean by biology scales and learning to the 80-20 rule. Leverage your biology. So if you're able to scale your biology, not your personality, that's where you can see it. You can make an immense difference. Sorry if I go, listen, I'm no, but I could talk about this for hours.
No, listen, I bring people on the podcast to talk. This is good. This is what we are, right? That's the whole purpose of it, right?
I'm a very passionate person. I mean, this is one topic. Literally. Like, I'll give you an example of like living like in the pocket, right? Or if I'm using the right term, living at year 10. So I am living, like, if I'm talking about what I'm doing, I have that passion right there.
Absolutely.
Right? So right there's the biology. And what they say is, and I'll just, this is one of the things I want to say is you asked me a question about motivation. So I want to answer that. So there's what I call the biological mapping, and it starts like this. Okay. Starts with curiosity. Why? Well, that's actually a primal, you know that. Kids, let me look at, that's curiosity. What's under curiosity? It's dopamine. So it goes curiosity. You have to have curiosity to live your passion. You have to have passion to live your purpose. You need to have purpose to have autonomy, to practice the purpose. And then that leads to mastery. So it's 6 steps. And an exercise for curiosity is if I were to write down right now, what are your 20, it doesn't matter what it is. What are the 25 things that are most curious to you? Maybe podcast is one of them. I guarantee you there's going to be an overlap for anyone. And you may see something. And guess what? If you're hitting 3 or 4 of them, boom, that's the passion recipe right there.
Love it. I love it.
And once you're in passion, there's other chemicals that go on. Because if you're excited, now it's not that, but then you have anandamide, you have anandamide going on. You have serotonin.
What's that? What's that? I never heard of that one before. What's that one?
Don't quote me on that. That I'd have to. I'm just giving the different chemicals that are serotonin, anandamide, oxytocin. So all these things are in there. And that's what I'm saying is like in the middle of passion, that's where it is. So my point is that I'm not gonna lie, I may have been tired like 40, before the podcast, but now talking about it, I got my energy back up. But that's what I mean by like, how do people, so everyone's like, yo, how did you win that race? How did you do it? I got my second wind. Well, let's talk about that. Let's break that out into what. And again, that's where the Agile comes in. I want to understand the what. Right. I want to understand what does it mean when people say Agile. That's my main mission, is to understand why people say what they say.
And the understanding what part of it is really key. Because I always tell you, so let's go back to the Michael Jordan again, right? You go back to Michael Jordan and say, yo, how did you hit those 6 3-pointers in a row? You know what he's going to say to you? I don't know.
1,000%. Right.
There's a famous ad or a commercial in a game where he hits a shot, he looks and goes, I don't know. He's just in that space. Now they know. So the top performers know what it feels like to be there, but to pass on the roadmap,
they don't know how to articulate it.
Right.
That's my job. That's where I
Yes.
come in and I can unveil that. So you're good, I can get you to great. And there's books on that by William Pinker and all that stuff. But again, it really all goes back to the science. It
Yeah.
really does, because learning is there. And again, going back to when I started this 2 years ago,
Yep.
I'm obsessed with reading, right? So the whole concept is this: I can't guarantee results tomorrow. You're not going to win $1 million. You could look in the mirror, but the whole concept, and this is where we didn't really we didn't talk about the subject, so I'll kind of broach it briefly.
Yeah.
But it's the whole concept of what I call compound interest. It's small wins. So what
Yeah.
happens is, fundamentally, human beings, we want it, we want it, we want it. It's a self-gratification. So in the beginning of the new year, what happens? People start, there's an uptick in people going to the gym, but then after a month they slope off. That's what's happened, and don't quote me on this, is that for if I were to tell you what's happening from a neurochemical perspective, they kind of have too much dopamine, or they kind of like, I don't want to say, they kind of they kind of they didn't reserve their neurochemistry. So
Gotcha.
what's happening is they're not tapping into willpower. They're tapping into willpower, and willpower does not work. So
Right.
when you're leveraging your neuroscience and understanding its small wins, right? Because it's like, oh no, the slow pokes of the world, we don't need them in corporate America. That's bullshit.
That's
Because I'm
absolutely
I'm the
them.
slow poke, but you know what? I've made a shit ton of mistakes, even from former bosses, but I'm
Absolutely.
also at the top of my game where I'm at now. I
Yeah.
did sign an official NDA, so I can't say where I officially work, but I will tell you this: I do work at a very prestigious company. And I'm
Mhm.
saying that because 10 years ago, I don't think some of my bosses would even think I got there. But
Right.
looking at it now, I've always been that turtle. I've always done that compound interest slowly, um, one step at a time.
Slow and
That's
steady wins a race.
that's essentially what peak performance is, and that's what it is. And if you know that, then look at where you are 6 months ago versus, oh crap, I missed it a month ago and I didn't do it. Small wins today, small wins tomorrow. You wake up one day and you're like, what?
Right.
And
That's
how
right.
do you, and now here's the other question, right? How do you know you achieved mastery? Ready?
That's a great question. How do you know?
When you're bored. So if you did that task that you think is new and you're like, this is easy, you just hit mastery. But let's take it back to the challenge skills ratio. Where are you at now?
Right.
I don't know. Oh, I know the sax. Well, I don't know. Maybe I can play a Kenny G note, but maybe I want to be like Satchmo, Louis Armstrong. Phenomenal, right? Or maybe I want to learn Brazilian jazz or something. Or what about karate, right? Oh, karate. Well, okay, but there's jujitsu,
Sure.
there's
Yep. Yep.
taekwondo.
Yep.
So that's
Yep.
what I mean by that. And again, I didn't quote me on that. I probably picked it up from someone else or one of the other books that I read. So
I,
here's an example. I've read 10 books in the last like 5 months.
okay.
I go on the train, but I read like 10, 20 pages a day. 6 months later, how the did I read?
Yes.
And I say this because I was never a reader. So this is that's
Yes.
why I believe in
Yes.
this so much. Because if you say the king of laziness, yo, that was me in a nutshell. Everyone will attest, even my wife to this day. And look, I still learn, but like in high school, college, it's like I could never pick up a book.
Right. Yep.
It was always a struggle. And I'm
Yep.
not saying it's still not easy now, but I have that intrinsic motivation. And it all was because it's starting that neuroscience.
That's it.
And it's the self-coaching. And again, I still learn every day, but I still have the skills that I know how to navigate. So even if I'm in that rut, I could still 10x it tomorrow. But I say this because I'm not trying to ego myself. I say this because I want to help other people that are backed up in a wall and they have no idea what to do.
Yes.
And literally understanding that the power. So when people say, like in Jedi, right, trust the Force, Luke, the
Yes.
power is within you. That's what it means,
Yeah.
and that's what I want people to understand and do that.
I love it. I don't absolutely love it, man. I mean, the whole concept of small wins and slow and steady wins a race and all there's power in that. And I'm glad you're able to articulate those today and give our listeners some insights. You're as you're talking about your passion for this shines through. And I'm so glad that you have that because that will only benefit your clients. Absolutely, they'll be able to say, this guy is not just BSing me. This
Right.
guy knows and cares and wants my success. You
That's
said
the
your
one.
website.
Go. No, I was going to say that's the difference with me. I think a lot of coaches, and I don't want to say that, but like I don't know. I've spoken to coaches. I've prospected, and to your
Sure.
point, like that's the one thing that I bring. And I'm not saying other coaches don't, but like I give it 150%.
You do.
And that, to your point, that is the one thing that I do bring to the table is passion. And any project, anything I work on, I take it to 150%. So for my clients, that is my project. So my goal is to succeed. If you don't succeed, you don't succeed. I don't want your money, right? And what's the reason for the money to say that? Because the money is to fund and resource to grow my company more, InterX Lab, so more people I can help and send that message. But at the end of the day, it's not about the money. Like, I'll give you your money back if you either, like, if you're not happy. It's not about that. It's really, like, I really thought about this, but I wake up every day and it's a personal quest to do well. And one last thing, on a very evolutionary biological scale, think about all the celebrities who've committed suicide. At the end of the day, your brain doesn't respond to money. Your brain responds to, like, you're smiling podcast.
Yes.
But that's the whole point, is that if you look at some of the greats like Robin Williams and people that have done it, they had everything.
Yes.
So that's why I'm using extremes like that, that your money, you may in your mind say, no, but I want this 5 years from now. Okay, fine. But what if 5 years from now, you didn't have a family and you have nothing, but now you're in this big mansion, you have no one? That's what I mean. Then you're going back to ground zero.
That's right.
So when we say living passion, that's what your brain responds to, is when they say go one step higher. And one of the things we say about purpose is, when you build an organization, what is your mission statement? Your mission statement cannot be but your mission statement, in many ways, and this is where this is a little secret that I'm saying, is in the peak performance world, is I want to help the greater people, because now, there's a bit of selfishness there.
Of course,
you're helping other people, but your brain responds to that, because that's where the oxytocin, why? Because we're social bonding creatures, right? We're not, money is just a mechanism.
Absolutely.
But the reason that we need to is because that's the real source code to motivation, is that
that's right.
You have to, right? And I forgot, there's really
and also too, for those that we're talking to, they also connect to that as well. So it benefits both sides.
And I'll give you this idea. What are we really here for? I call it the 4 Fs.
Okay.
Fight, flee, fucking food. That's it. You see a woman, you're like, oh, or the woman sees a guy, but that's your primal mechanism. And that's what I want to teach people, is how do you leverage that? But that's why we're here, right? And one of those is social bonding. And that's why we're here. And that's the point, is that if you're doing money, but you're not happy, or you commit suicide, it's because you're not living that, and something's there. And that's where depression hits. That's where it's going. So I'm not saying that medication's not there. I simply just want to unpeel it back a little bit. It's the matrix. You have the blue pill or the red pill, and all I can do is open the curtain. And it's not a bad curtain. It's a great curtain. But that, in a nutshell, everything we've spoken about, and I've really done nuanced things, that to me is truly what I mean by decoding the science of ultimate human performance. Little bits.
Yes.
And that is exactly Agile. So when you stack all of them up, flow is one aspect of it, but there's many other things to it. And that's where the agility comes in as well.
Yeah. I love it. Adam, I can't think of a better way to spend a Friday afternoon. Thank you for your time, man. This is totally awesome. If listeners wanted to connect with you or learn more about you and your work, where could we send them?
Yeah, no, absolutely. As soon as my website's up and running, I'll send that to you and your fans. Right now, I would say you can connect with me. You can send me an email to it, adam@interxlab.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Great to subscribe. Definitely would like and need the followers. I need the support.
Sure.
But yeah, it's you search in Facebook, InterX Lab, you'll find me. Instagram, YouTube, literally there's no spaces. INNERXLAB.
Love it. I love it. Listen, congratulations on your mission. Again, fabulous work. I love it. And the difference you're making in the lives of your clients is awesome. So thank you. Congratulations. And we'll see you down the road, my friend.
Awesome. Sounds good. Have a great weekend. Cheers.
Back we are here on the podcast. In our conversation with Adam, we delved into the science of motivation, the concept of flow, and the importance of understanding the triggers that drive peak performance. By tapping into the power of neuroscience and agile methodologies, Adam shared valuable insights on how individuals can reach new heights in both their personal and professional lives. Now, if you're inspired by Adam's message and want to learn more about his coaching services, be sure to check him out in the show notes. We'll have his contact details. I'd certainly encourage you to connect with Adam directly to start your journey towards living your most audacious life. Adam is currently offering a limited time coaching package for listeners of the Audacious Living podcast. So certainly you want to jump on that. And again, the show notes will have all the details on how you can take advantage of this exclusive opportunity to work with a really, really, really good guy in Adam. Thank you for tuning into today's episode of the Audacious Living Podcast. If you've enjoyed the conversation and found value in what we shared today and took something from our conversation with Adam, I'd encourage you to like, follow, or share this podcast if you're not doing any of those things already, because that's how we reach even more listeners and continue to grow this audacious community. Stay bold, stay audacious. Until next time, keep living your best life.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.